been one hot minute since we last sat down for a chat. How are you? We landed back from vacation and it just seems like I've been working ever since, but it is good because some good news might come from it. But it has led to a little bit of burnout. So today we're going to talk about the importance of taking time to relax and recharge. Okay, but really, I want to talk today about the importance of spending time with God and how that can actually help us not only recharge, but also gain clarity and gain peace in many areas of our lives that might currently be stressing us. Now, if we're honest about it, we are all full of excuses when it comes to spending time with God.
I have to take a nap before I go to bed.
I have to pet my dog. Oh wait, I don't have a dog. I have to sit and think about all the things that are stressing me out. I have to learn piano so I can worship God. I have to kiss my husband. And personally, I don't really know why I make excuses for it, because quite frankly, the minute I sit down and have quiet time, I'm less stressed, I'm less anxious, suddenly I feel recharged, I feel like I have a sense of direction, and there's also a peace over circumstances that perhaps are causing me a little bit more distress. One of the ways I justify my lack of quieting down during busy seasons is that I might pray while I'm driving or might listen to a Christian podcast that's recharging. But the reality is I'm still distracted in those moments. If I'm behind the wheel, my attention is really on what's going on around me to be a safe driver. If I'm, talking to God while doing homework, God is secondary in that moment because my true attention is focused on my homework. The difference between that and being intentional with your quiet time is that He becomes the center of our attention in that moment. And quite honestly, if you are saying, well, I don't have God time because I feel more stressed than I already am when I do, I don't think you're having God time, because it doesn't matter the circumstance or what you are facing. The minute you submit it to God and you enter His presence, everything quiets. Everything quiet. So if you are giving it over to Him and letting Him be at the center, you will not be leaving your quiet time more stressed than you entered it. So actually, I sat down to kind of make a list, I love lists, of some things that I want to start implementing during my God time in order to really ensure that God is my priority. He is at the center. One of them is I will not be having my cell phone in my office. I usually have God time in my office because I can just close the door. It's a nice cozy place. But I will not be bringing my cell phone in. All it takes is that one ring, that one message, that one, non-urgent call to kind of take us away from the moment that we are having. It just shifts our train of thought. And let's face it, you check that one text and next thing you know, you spent an hour on Instagram. Oops. We've all done it. Some of the things that I already do that can be perhaps helpful tips for you are, if you're going to be reading your Bible, pick an easy book to read. Things like Proverbs, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, the book of James. Just sit on it, digest, see what God is speaking through it. You won't find me reading Revelations or Romans or anything that requires a bit more backstory or a further study than a calm, quiet God time is providing space for. And that's one of the differentiations that we need to make. Sitting down for a Bible study and sitting down for God time, two completely different things. So if you are reading the Bible during your quiet time, it is to just hear God out and see what He says through the chapters or verses that you are reading. If you are sitting down for a Bible study, you are sometimes doing a bit of research into the chapters you're reading, into the words. So it tends to focus more on learning from the Word than it is just sitting and being in God's presence with nothing on your mind. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that I'm a big fan of the spiritual shifts that playing worship music brings. So I will usually have either quiet instrumental or what some churches and Christians call soaking music. It's just quiet, soft instrumental music. Sometimes there's prayers in them, sometimes there's really soft vocals, but it's music that doesn't distract you. That being said, some people do not get distracted by music. So if you're like, hey, you know what? I want upbeat music during my God time, all for it. Enjoy. Now, journaling. I am a fan of buying journals. I feel like I have a journal for pretty much every area of my life. So I have one for my business, I have one for ministry ideas, I have one for my God time, I have one for when I'm at church and taking notes. So journals, they're awesome. When I first started journaling, I was like, I don't necessarily know what to write. And I find that this tends to be a lot of people's issues. They just sit there with a book and pen and they don't know what to say. My advice to you is to just start writing your thoughts. Start writing what you are feeling. Start expressing yourself. So see it as a letter that you are writing to God, where you are just sharing anything that's on your heart that you just want to put on paper. The reason I prefer journaling over just sitting and kind of like keeping my conversations or my thoughts with God in my head is that when they're in my head, I forget them. When you are journaling, it is actually quite amazing to be able to go back a few weeks later or even months later to see what God was speaking to you during that season and that time, and just to be reminded of his words and promises over you. The other thing is that because you are writing, it forces you to have to think a little bit slower and gives you a bit more time to process. Whereas if you are anything like me, your mind literally goes like 100 miles a minute. So sometimes you're not even totally invested into a thought or understanding of a thought. It just comes and goes, and then the next one is right behind it. So I find that journaling really kind of centers me on what I am feeling and what I am thinking and what God is speaking to me, as opposed to it just being a movie playing on fast forward, which is often what my brain feels like. And my biggest piece of advice is be willing to wait on God. So if you are coming to God with something you want answered, or like a heavy feeling, heavy discussion that you want to have, don't sit there tapping your pen being like, okay, God, tell me something, like I only have 10 minutes for you. When you are sitting down to have God time and to recharge and refocus and recenter, give yourself the freedom to spend as much time as you need. Allow God to talk to you and speak to you in his timing. Don't rush it, don't force it. If you find you hear nothing, then hey, just keep writing what you are feeling, and you will notice that in due time, either you will see him speak through the words that you are writing, or he will speak to you through a Bible verse, through the music that is playing, through just sometimes the emotions that you feel in that moment. God speaks to us. So if we are rushing to try and hear him on our timing, we're going to miss the message. If we take the time to just sit and just be in his presence, just be at rest in him, that is when he speaks to us. That is when we hear him best. God time will look different for everyone, but it is essential that in that moment, God is at your center. So that is it for a little chat with Ashley. Keep on coming by the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, because then you'll know when I post if I'm a little bit behind. And we hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for taking the time to sit and listen, and go have some quiet time in God's presence. See you next time.